Hi, I'm Kevin Judah, along with Afsheen Benab, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jury. Long time no see. We've been away for about 3 months, but it's nice to be back on the air here at AIM, Comcast 69 and Fios 38, right here on the nation's capital sports show, where it's most definitely on, gentlemen. And so we're going to start the first order of business talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports. Our lead story, the MLS, Major League Soccer League, in conjunction with D.C. Mayor Vincent E. Gray, have come to a tentative agreement to house a stadium in Buzzards Point in Southeast Washington, a couple blocks from Nationals Park, for the tune of $300 million to be split among MLS and DC. Good or bad deal? Chris?
Well, what remains to be seen. I think it potentially could be a good deal. I just think that right now you got to get all the votes in order, and we'll see how it plays out. But DC United has long wanted a stadium in the city. Maybe this will answer their call.
Afsheen, this is going to be a vast improvement into where the DC United plays at currently. And they play at the cavernous, antiquated, old and outdated RFK Stadium, 13,680 per game. Now they have a potential with this new arena, or stadium I should say, of 20,000. So if they build it, will the fans come?
Well, I think eventually, at the first year or two, they'll come. That's what happens when you do build stadiums, is that people will go just to see what it's like. I don't know if I'm all in about Buzzards Point. I liked Poplar Point years ago when they talked about it, but they couldn't seem to get a deal done there. But I think for the first year or two that people will come. It's going to be about 3/4 of a mile away from Nats Park, so that's a distant walk for a lot a lot of people who have to take Metro.
That's one heck of a walk. Vincent?
I think it'll be a good deal, especially for United. They've waited a long time for something like this, and they're one of the few teams in the league that don't have a venue. And playing at RFK, they're not able to get the money from the concessions. They don't have the skyboxes that they would like to have. I think it's a good deal. I question the $150 million taxpayer money.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Vincent. That's the problem I have with the $150 million. You know, the other thing is, as Afsheen alluded to, you know, when you're talking about this stadium, they keep saying, well, it's over there by Nationals Park. And it should be known by the fans that you will have a 3/4 mile walk to the stadium, either from the Navy Yard station or the waterfront station. So it's not as close as they're painting it out. I have more of a concern, not so much from DC United's standpoint, but the people who currently live in that neighborhood, because just like when Nationals Park came online, one of the things that happened is, yeah, they had development and it became a gentrified area, and a lot of the low income and in some cases no income people were forced to move out. Well, on the southwest side, you have the same thing, and I'm worried that the same thing's going to happen if a stadium goes there.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. I agree with both of you. The $150 million that's going to go to the taxpayers and all the people that probably will be pushed out of the neighborhoods, which they lived in those neighborhoods, Kevin, for literally 2, maybe 3 generations. Families gone down the line in those areas. So that's unfortunate. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I agree too. So let's talk in terms of where DC United stands in terms of attendance. According to MLS, they are one of the worst teams in terms of home attendance at 13,722 games. The other team is Chivas, and they manage about 6,230. The biggest team that draws the most home attendance per MLS is the Seattle Sound at 40,000. Will DC United have any complications filling up a 20,000 seat stadium on a regular basis? Chris?
Well, I think it all depends, because, see, another thing that they keep talking about with a stadium, and it has been found out across MLS, is you can have a new stadium all you want, but it has to be A, in the right spot, and B, you still have to market. You know, there's a team like Kansas City, they built a new stadium, they've marketed it correctly. It was the worst in MLS when they existed out of Arrowhead Stadium. They built a new stadium, and then all of a sudden, you know, they're able to market and do better. You know, Kevin, you and I, we went to Red Bull Arena, which is probably the best stadium in MLS for soccer.
Yes, it is.
Yet they continually have like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 empty seats for that stadium, and part of it is in Harrison and not New York. So we'll see whether they can do better at DC or not.
And Ashley, I'm going to let you have the last word on this. Could they take a page out of could DC United, in terms of marketing, take a page out of the other teams in MLS book and say, hey, this is how we're going to market this one. We're going to consult with these teams and see how we can do it correctly.
Oh, absolutely, they could. I'd like to see them take a page out of some of those teams, even the Seattle Sounders, where they play in a big football stadium, actually, and it's quite amazing to me that they get 40,000 a game. How do they do that? One way to do it is to win. So that's also something that would be beneficial to the community, is if DC comes back and win, like they did back in the 90s and early 2000s, then you're going to see the fans come show up.
All right, if they build it, hopefully they will show up and come and spend lots of money on on lots of treats, and we'll see how that goes. So from the soccer field to the gridiron, we're going to talk about training camp for the Washington Redskins that started up a couple days ago. And of course, we've got some storylines here. Training camp started at their new home in Richmond, Virginia. And this is the first time in Redskins history in the last several years where they had every player signed up and reporting. And that's going to be good for the Redskins if they want to continue to, progress in the season, win the NFC Championship again, hopefully, and progress in the playoffs. Afsheen.
Yeah, they did. They started off at Bon Secours training facility in Richmond, Virginia. 12,000 people showed up actually for the first day of training camp, more than a DC United game sometimes. But Robert Griffin III was there. Everyone showed up, and you're right. That's one of the big things, Kevin. Everybody is back. The one missing link was Lorenzo Alexander, who bolted away, and now he's playing for the Arizona Cardinals. But everybody's back, and they're going to try to bond down in Richmond.
All right. Vincent.
They will miss Lorenzo Alexander as far as special teams, but there'll be people to step in. There are a few question marks. One thing from what I've been reading and hearing, RG3 is going to go through the whole preseason without playing. Now, anybody that's played football, you got to take some hits before you get into a game, especially when the first game is Philadelphia.
Well, here's the question, though, and I'll let Chris finish. I've seen impressions where RG3 has come up and said he's excited to be back. He's been cleared to partake in practice. However, I'm wondering, he says that he expects to play in week 1. I'm wondering what Coach Mike Shanahan's going to do to stop this speeding train called Robert Griffin III, because as Vincent alluded to, well, you got to play some games, and there's no way in the world, based on a scenario, RG3 is going to be playing week 1. Now, I've seen stranger things happen, but Chris.
Well, he's Super Bob. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. I mean, this guy can do just about anything. I know there's this talk about he's not going to play in preseason game, but I find that hard. Maybe a couple series, but I just can't see him. And if I was the coach, I wouldn't want him just going straight from practice and never playing any snaps in preseason. He doesn't have to play a whole half or even a whole quarter, but I think he needs to get some snaps in preseason. I expect that to happen.
I agree. I just can't imagine not playing at all any preseason game, Vincent, and getting ready for a Monday night game against your NFC East rival Philadelphia Eagles. He will definitely play in preseason. I think he's too impatient not to play. He wants to get out there right now and play. If the NFL started preseason tomorrow, he'd be out there playing.
Showing his super skills and all, but I digress, Vincent.
Now, other things that I think about when I'm looking at the team, the Redskins, sure, we know offensively they're going to be pretty strong, but defensively, they better shore up that defensive backfield, because that was a major problem.
Well, funny you should mention that. Defensively already, Afsheen, the Washington Redskins have opened up training camp with quite a few injuries, and season-ending injuries, I should say.
Right, there's a couple. Adam Carricker is one, and one that's not an injury I think is going to hurt the team is Jarvis Jenkins. He's been suspended the first 4 games of the season due to substance abuse, so we'll see who fills in there, because he filled in for Adam Carricker last year. Now, the defensive backfield that you alluded to, Vincent, I agree. They've got a whole bunch of young people, including Bakaria Rambo and David Amerson, and they're going to have to fill in quickly and get the job done for them to be successful.
Especially the guy that was supposed to fill in for London Fletcher. He's out injured now, and so therefore, this is where the rookies begin, or the second-year players begin to rise up, because they have to fill in this void. That's their job, but that remains to be seen. Let's talk a little bit about Brian Orakpo, who's on again, off again in terms of his injury. He injured his pectoral muscle last year for a season-ending injury. We talked about this on previous podcasts, Afsheen, in terms of Brian Orakpo. If he can just stay healthy for the entire season, then the Redskins will have a fighting chance, at least from that position.
Yeah, this is probably the year that he's going to stay healthy and have a breakout year, because it's his contract year. So they need him. They need him badly. He is great off of the end. He's great off the edge for the pass rush. Without him, I think Kerrigan is not as strong as he would be. So if them together, those two, Kerrigan and Arakpo, they could make quite a team.
All right, let's talk a little bit. Let's get Vincent's get
Now,
in there.
getting back to injuries on the offensive side, Pierre Garçon, he's coming back. Now, he should be able, as long as he stays healthy, to help that receiving core and even make them stronger.
Yes, let's see if he can pick up this year.
Right.
However, you'll have a different quarterback, Kirk Cousins, that will actually be at the helm for all intents and purposes as of this broadcast. So we're going to see how he plays with Kirk Cousins. Chris.
Yeah, it's going to be I think preseason is really going to be interesting to set up a lot of stuff. So
All right.
see how it goes.
So let me actually talk about this a little bit and talk in terms of Chris Cooley, who's missing from the Redskins field of play because the Redskins have given him a shot at being a broadcaster. He was signed to a multi-year deal where he's going to be working at WTEM and he's going to be doing his broadcasting. Wow, wish I had it like that. You don't have to play this year. Don't worry about it, Chris. We're going to give you a multi-million-dollar deal. Seems like they set him up, Chris, for good in terms of good.
Yeah, this is made it sounds almost like a insurance policy, and the Redskins are using this kind of like to, how should I say, like get around the salary cap.
Yeah, we're going to look out for you, Chris, my man.
Yeah, he has not officially retired. He has not sent his retirement papers into the NFL. So if something happens to a Fred Davis or Reed, who they picked up from Florida, who they drafted from Florida, they could easily bring Chris Cooley back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vincent.
I'm sure he'll still be in the weight room a few days a week in case the broadcasting thing doesn't pan out.
Well, something tells me that broadcasting thing will pan out, especially at a multi-million-dollar year, making more than his colleagues that also work at WTEM. So he need not say anymore.
Yeah, that's right. He's got it made in the shade, man.
All right, let's move on from the gridiron. Of course, from the soccer field, we move to on Golden Pond, talking about those Washington Capitals in the NHL. Now, the National Hockey League has announced the schedule for the 2013-2014 season and the new division names for the first time since the league made those changes to the geographical breakdown. So what this means, the biggest change is that the Atlantic Division has now become a combination of the Southeast Division, and the Northwest Division from last year. And so what was known once as the Atlantic Division becomes the Herald Metropolitan Division. Now, according to NHL, they started this so they can bring back the rivalries and cut down on the travel cost. Chris.
Well, I think it will help to regenerate some rivalries, especially for the Caps, because those teams that were in the Southeast, that were formerly in the Southeast, really weren't rivals of them. So now they're coming back. They're going to be playing the Rangers, the Islanders, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. All those teams are going to be playing more. So it's going to be real interesting how this all works out in this new division. And your playoffs are determined pretty much by how you do in your division, too.
So if I can get in here real quick to talk about the Metropolitan Division, it's going to consist of course, the Capitals, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Rangers, Islanders, New Jersey, Columbus, and Carolina. Afsheen.
That's right. This is the old Patrick Division, if you guys know hockey from way back,
Right.
especially with those local teams like Philadelphia and the Rangers and the Islanders, the old Patrick Division. So they are regenerating an old rivalry, and it's going to be good to see.
All right, we're going to let Vincent have the last word.
That's going to be a tough division that they're in. New Jersey and the Islanders, the New York teams, and of course Philly and Pittsburgh. Now, when I look at all these divisions, I'm wondering, I see that you have Tampa Bay over in the Atlantic Division, and you have Montreal and Ottawa in the Atlantic Division. But over in the Central Division, you've got Colorado. Shouldn't they be in the West with Anaheim and those teams?
Well, we're going to hold that for another time. You're going to have the last word on this. Let's ponder that thought. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. We want to remind you that you can listen to the Nation's Capital Sports Show podcast on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network at Stitcher.com. Coming up, we're going to be talking more sports. That's what we like to do here. We're going to talk about the Washington Mystics, the Wizards, and even, yes, the Washington Nationals. This and much, much more on this edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on, right here at AIM, Comcast 69 and Files 38. We also want you to know that you can send us an email at tncsportshow@gmail.com. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afsheen Benab, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jerry. Let's continue our discussion talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports. Let's talk about those Washington Nationals. There are no fair weather fans sitting around this table. We all know what the Nationals have been doing all season long. But we're going to approach this conversation from a different level. You know, we know that just recently Drew Storn was sent down to the minors. Tyler Clippert came out and said, hey, I don't like that. I don't like the way that the Nationals are dealing with that. And on top of that, they traded one Rick for another in terms of the hitting coaches. Rick Eckstein, long-term national pitching coach, or hitting coach, I should say, is no longer. But Rick Shue, who's been with the Nationals organization for like 4 years, been in baseball for like 8 years on a professional level, is used to working with the likes of, let's say, Ian Desmond, Roger Bernardina, and of course Bryce Harper. We've seen this move every time in baseball. They do it to shake things up. So someone has to serve as the, wait for it, here's a baseball term, sacrificial lamb. Chris.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, Tom Boswell actually brought that point up on the day that they let Eckstein go because he asked Davey Johnson. He made the reference that, you know, the Yankees used to let go Art Fowler hoping that Billy Martin would end up resigning. And he was asking Davey, is that what's going on here? And Davey says, you know, I don't want to talk about that. But I'm glad they made the move because they weren't hitting, and I think a change needed to be made. And however it was made, good for them, and the teams won 4 or 5 cents.
Yeah, Rick Shue is well known throughout the league. He's gone through the minor league system as a hitting coach all over the place, and he's been here with the Nats for a little bit. So maybe the change will help. It seems like it's helping now. They're in the midst of a 3-game winning streak, though it was the New York Mets.
Right.
It's kind of interesting because they interviewed Ryan Zimmerman, and he gave his thoughts in terms of what a hitting coach will do. He absolutely said, well, it's up to the players. It's, you know, to me, having a hitting coach is good, but it does nothing to me. Now they talk about, and they talk to Ian Desmond, on the other hand, says, hey, I enjoy a pitching coach in which a hitting coach in which they set me up and they tell me what to do and they tell me what to work on. So it depends on what player that you speak to on the Nationals in terms of the worth of a hitting coach. Vincent.
I agree with that, Kevin. More so with the younger guys. Someone like Shue would be able to help them, but the veterans, I think he sort of lets them go. He can give them tips here and there, but mainly, I think he's for the younger guys, and this team consists of a lot of younger players.
That's right. And the story for the Washington Nationals have been this season, they've been up again, on again, up again, middling at best. Then, of course, they're ebullient. And here's my question in terms of if it was a Jeopardy, if we were playing a Jeopardy game, you know, I would go, what is an enigma wrapped in a riddle? The answer, what are the Washington Nationals? Afsheen.
Or what are any pros team in the D.C. area? But, yeah, they are an enigma this year. I have to say that everyone at this table agreed at the end of last season that the Washington Nationals would not perform as well as they did in 2012. And but I don't know if we all thought that they would perform this badly. So there's a big difference. But you know, they've got to get it together if they want to chase get in the playoff hunt because they're like 8 behind Atlanta, 8.5 behind a wild card, something like that. They don't have that many games left.
Yeah, I know, and they need to pick it up some kind of soon. Here's something else to think about, too. Coincidentally, General Manager Mike Rizzo is working with players. Most of them were brought in and signed during the GM Jim Bouton era. And so now we get to see the moves of this GM, Mike Rizzo, in terms of what he's going to do. Good or bad? Is he your impression of him so far, Chris? With the latest changes?
I think my impression is that I still say wait and see. You know, Rizzo is getting a lot of credit for the team's success last year, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could have been any of us at the table and decided to pick Strasburg or Harper.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
So I don't know. You know, here's what I know is that they didn't want Lannon, and to replace Lannon, they brought in Jackson, who was a disaster, and Herron hasn't been that good. You spent basically $30 million for 2 guys to replace Lannon. It hasn't worked. So I'm not as high on Rizzo as a lot of others may be. So I still say let's wait and see how this is going to work out. I like to see if he's going to make any moves as we head down to the end of the season.
That's right. Well, make any moves still in terms of the trading and bringing in players as we approach the deadline with 3 days left as of this broadcast. It's July 31st, I do believe, right?
Right, correct. July 31st, and maybe they will go get someone like a Lannon They won't get the actual John Lennon, but maybe somebody like him. And I liked him. I thought he was a good 4 or 5 pitcher. As far as Strasburg and Harper, it was a no-brainer because they were both #1 picks. So it wasn't like you had to think about it.
Exactly.
You know?
All right, Vincent, once again, we're going to let you have the last word on this, my man.
I have to disagree with you on the point that they may get a pitcher. Sure, in the back part of the rotation, the Nationals are weak. But I think with Ross Ollendorf coming on, I think they're going to have enough. And long term, they have a lot of arms in the bullpen. So I don't think they're going to make a major move as far as the starting rotation, but they may make a move as far as getting somebody for the bench.
And we're going to let you have the last word on that, Vincent. So we're going to move on to talking about the Washington Mystics. Actually, we're going to talk about the Wizards because it's been a while since we've been here, and we want to talk about how they fared in the NBA draft. And they did pretty well. They got their man, and Otto Porter Jr., a Georgetown standout. He was drafted second overall in the first round. Chris?
Well, Otto Porter Jr. Was probably the safest pick in that draft. I mean, he coming out of Georgetown, he had an outstanding season. So that was a good pick. And then picking up later on Glenn Rice Jr. coming out of in the second round, I think that helps. The thing is, you know, you can't read but so much into the rookie league, but Otto really didn't have a really good rookie league season, so to speak. But you can't, again, put a lot of pressure on it because Jan Vesely had a great rookie league, and we know what's happened with him the last couple of years, so we'll see.
Well, let's look at the terms of what the Wizards are talking about. They expect Porter to come in and make an immediate impact coming off the bench. They could use 10 points. And now, of course, John Wall's contract has been renewed. That shows that the commitment that the Wizards are making towards wanting to improve their game. Afsheen?
Yeah, I think they would want more than 10 points, hopefully, if you're the Washington Wizards, from your number 3 overall pick in Otto Porter Jr.
Well, if he's coming off the bench, every little bit will work.
That's right.
10, 15,
no, absolutely.
And the thing about Porter, you got to like the upside of his game. He's not only good at one particular thing, he's good at many things.
Yeah,
he can rebound, he can shoot, he can play defense.
He's versatile. I think that will help with John Wall and Bradley Beal. And getting back to what Chris said, I think Glenn Rice Jr., not because of his Michigan ties, but Glenn Rice Jr. may be a surprise on this basketball team.
All right.
I think Otto Porter is going to complement Bill and Wall. Great, but there are a lot of things that he can do, like Kevin said. You know, he can shoot the three-pointer, he can rebound. He is very versatile, and they're high on Otto Porter. It may take a year or two for him to get used to the league, but I think he's going to complement real well.
All right, I kind of disagree with you. I think he's going to make not necessarily an immediate impact, but he's going to make a good impact when he actually steps on the floor. You know, in terms of 2 to 3 years, well, we may see him in an NBA All-Star game, Chris, probably 2 to 3 years. Would you agree with that?
Well, I hope at the very least we'll see him in the NBA Rookie All-Star
I hope so.
game.
There we go.
At least
there
he gets
we go.
that far.
All right, and of course, the 20-year-old Porter will be making $4.2 million, or let me do this over again, $4.28 million for the next couple seasons, and that's not bad when you're 20 years old.
Right.
I'll take it.
I would too.
Nice chunk of change.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's actually one more thing about the NBA draft. They're going to be changing, moving it up a week or setting it back a week. What's going on with that?
Well,
Chris?
there's talk about perhaps moving it back a week, pushing things back because they think that coming out of the NBA Finals that it's really kind of too congested there, so they may want to try to push it back. We'll see if that's a good idea or not. I think they should leave it the way it is, though.
Yeah.
Good or bad idea?
I think they should keep it. It's been that way for years, and it's always worked.
Good or bad idea?
I say keep it.
All right, man, that's the shortest response. Thanks a lot, Vincent. All right, let's continue on talking about those Washington Mystics. They are currently, I think, well, I got to look at my paper, 9-9 overall, 6-3 at home. They're playing better than they did last year, and they're actually in third place in the Eastern Conference. And so when you look at that, they just recently came back from a 21-point deficit against the Chicago Sky to win it 87-78. And, of course, Ivory Lotta is actually doing pretty well. But we also have more cast of characters for the Mystics that are doing good, Afsheen.
Right, yeah, Crystal Langhorne, obviously, she made the WNBA All-Star game, so she's had a really good season here in Washington. So, you know, 9-9, that's better than they have been in quite a while.
That's right.
Yeah, 9-9. You know, as Afsheen says, better than they did quite a while. You know, the one frustration I've always had about the Mystics is when you look around the WNBA, I think Washington probably more so than any other WNBA city, has really supported its team, and they've not been given a whole lot to cheer about. So hopefully this team can get into the playoffs and advance. But 9-9 is much better than
Right.
we're used to seeing this time of summer from the Mystics in the WNBA.
I can remember on podcasts, they would be doing so bad, we would completely go down a rundown sheet and we would go in our meetings and go, should we talk about the Mystics? I know. But you're right, Chris, they're doing good this year. Midland at best. Vincent.
Yes, it's good to see that they're 9-9. At the beginning of the year, we really weren't expecting much, but Lotta has come around, and this center from Belgium, Messeman.
Messeman,
She's playing well
she's playing
also.
well.
That's right.
And let's not forget, they also have a bigger attendance than DC United.
No, they don't.
No, they
Cut it out.
don't. Come on,
I'm
where are the
joking. I'm
numbers of
joking.
that?
I'm
Google it,
joking.
man.
I'm joking on that one.
All right, so we want to remind everyone that you can check us out at Twitter at TNCS Sports, and check us out on Facebook at the Nation's Capital Sports Show at facebook.com. And so, any closing remarks before we get out of here with a minute, Chris?
It's good to be back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. Now we're in HD. Wow. I mean, that's pretty cool. The studio is gorgeous and modern, and we have our crew back. And you know what? We got to thank the team that makes it possible for us to sound good and look good, Afsheen.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, it all starts with Devin Gallagher, Ken Briley, Steve Cordo, LJ Lacoma, Janar Stewart, Kimberly Phillip, Kevin Sampson, and of course the pride of Washington Lee, the Honorable Craig Syfax. So all of them, a great job, and I love this AIM crew.
All right.
You know?
Thank you very much, Afsheen. On behalf of my buddies and colleagues in Chris Jerry, Afsheen Benab, and Vincent Charles, I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show right here on AIM at Comcast 69 and Fios 38. And don't forget to check us out on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network at StitcherRadio.com. Until we meet again, have a great sporting day and a great sporting week. Take care.